Today I want to show you a game from this wonderful book. This book is just about 60 games played by Capablanca. The games are completed, cioè not just the position, so that's the interesting part. And I want to show it to you because this week I heard Grandmaster Klovic saying that his game was totally changed after analyzing some games by Capablanca. He practically found all the books he had on Capablanca in his house, I guess, and he slowly went over the board with them, asking himself which movie would have played and so on and so forth. I asked him a more precise question. He said that he did that job for about 200 games, and it took him about at least 3 months, and he was watching them on the chessboard, only on the chessboard. So he wasn't interested to use a computer. He wanted to use his own head and ask himself tough questions because he wanted to reach a new level in chess, and in fact he did. Now, I'm not saying that this happened recently. It happened before he got his second norm, I think, for Grandmaster, because thanks to watching all those Capablanca games, he actually improved his thinking, his, let's say, algorithm to find the moves. He improved a lot. So, I would like to show you game 2 from this book, and then I also have other resources and other books with Capablanca games, and I hope to reach this magical number of 200, because as it is helping you watching them, it's helping me doing it, and I also like to watch my videos to try to guess what is the next move, because after a few months, honestly, I don't remember. But okay, I have a life that is out of chess. I'm not a chess professional, I have a lot of stuff to do, and so that's maybe the reason. Okay, let's continue from the game now here. So this is game 2. White is Capablanca, black is J. Corzo. This is the 11th match game played in Havana in 1901. Queen's pawn opening. Considering my age and experience, says Capablanca, this game is quite remarkable. Even the endgame was very well played by me. Senor Capablanca is unduly modest. The game is one of the most remarkable of his entire career. It surpasses any accomplishment by such any other prodigies as Morphy, Rejewski, and Fischer. Let's remember that up to 1911, I think, or 12, Capablanca wasn't considered a genius in chess, because nobody knew that he was that strong. He still didn't play this kind of international tournaments. 1901 is in Havana, in Cuba, so that's kind of different, right? Here it says, there is a beautiful queen sacrifice in the mid-game, but it is not meant to startle the natives. The queen is sacrificed as the quickest and most effective means of reaching a favorable endgame. Truly a magnificent concept. The endgame is conducted with elegance and accuracy, characteristics of Capablanca play. An impressive feature of this 60-move masterpiece is that it was dashed off in the singularly short time of 42 minutes. 42 minutes. That's incredible, right? And it starts with d4, d5, knight f3, c5, e3, knight c6, b3, e6, bishop b2, knight f6, knight b d2, and c takes d4. there was no hurry to make this exchange. The recipe called for more development, like obviously this or this. However, generally, and this is true when there is the pawn here, when you move the bishop here or here and you move the pawn here, the other takes and you have wasted the tempo. So if you play this and you play this, you have wasted the tempo. So I don't know if this comment by Irving Chernev is correct or not, okay? Again, it's the fourth time I watch the game. I don't use engines because the reality, dear friends, is that we cannot use engines over the board when we play a tournament, apart for some players. Okay, but otherwise, I'm sorry, you cannot use an engine, so you need to develop this skill to be able to think for yourself. E takes d4. Now, this e takes d4, it's interesting because it's locking in that bishop, right? So, I don't know, it seems a good thing for me, but at the same time, the problem is that it opens a file for white. But now, it makes sense to eventually try to develop this, in my opinion, okay? And in fact, it plays bishop d6, bishop d3, and castle. Now, here there is a comment by Chernev that says black plays mechanically and thereby misses a good opportunity. So, what is the good opportunity here? Well, it seems that the move should have been this, queen e7, because threaten a break in the center, okay? Or he threatened this, okay, because the point is that you don't castle, but he is going to castle. So are you really going to play this now? I don't think so, because you have a king behind. So yes, maybe there is this, maybe, yeah, maybe, but again, I don't see the advantage from this situation. What did black gain from it? No. Instead, castling makes sense because it allows black to try to finish the development. Now, I'm not saying it's ideal, but I think it would make more sense a breakthrough with this. And maybe the problem here is that it already this pawn h7, so it's gonna become a little dangerous here. Okay, so let's just watch the game, and so up to the moment we see the endgame. Castle, knight f6, h5. This is not really great in my opinion. I don't know. Probably the idea is to put it in f4 because he wants to remove this, but the problem is that now he has taken away the defender of this pawn, and luckily the bishop is on here and not controlling g5, otherwise there would be an immediate sacrifice on h7. Okay, let's see what happens. g3, f5, that's the reason why he played knight h5, because he wanted to push this pawn. And again, once you push that pawn, you have created a big hole here. This big hole, it's a problem because it's clearly an outpost for white, right? Yeah, and in fact he plays immediately knight e5. Now, what do you do as black? Well, black played knight f6. So his plan maybe is to go for the other outpost, maybe. Okay, so let's see what happens. f4, bishop takes e5, f takes e5, and now there is knight f6, g4. Here it's interesting. because honestly he could have made this. So let's see what happens, because in any case we want to try to do like Grandmaster Kolovic and ask us some questions, right? So let's see. So my idea is he plays this, but there is a note here in the book, okay? After this, obviously you don't play d5, e4, but you want to open the file, you want to keep the structure symmetrical, but the difference is here you have a pass pawn, okay? So let's see what Chernev says about it, because I'm curious. Exchange, and then he says queen e2 and white maintain the pressure. Okay, white maintain the pressure because black is behind in development. Practically we are at move 16, this rook is out of the game, this is a bad bishop, okay, because where does it go? Nowhere. So you need to find the solution for this, and the problem is that the next move is rook f1, so black will need to vacate this square, and he cannot control that file. However, once more, this is a pass pawn, so it's not a joke. And he needs to be able to open a little to bring this rook into the game. That's it. Let me bring the board back. So Corzo played knight g4 instead of knight e4. Okay. As we can see, the opening, that we like it or not, it's very important because it gives us a way to deal with a middle game that can be painful or not, because we saw knight e4, yeah, it seems a great move, but in the end you have this problem. So clearly black didn't play well the opening, in my opinion. Let's see how it continues. It continues with, obviously, knight g4, the threat is knight e3, forking this, and so he plays queen e2. How does black continue? Queen b6, attacking this, but this is not a really attack. The problem is this, because you see, when a pawn is pinned, this is not protected, and here there are two that are attacking, which means you need to defend e5, otherwise it's going down. Okay, so knight d2, f3, and bishop d7, finally freeing this rook. a3, probably to avoid knight b4, because then this would fall. Yeah, and in fact this is what Chernev says. This ward off the menace of knight c6 before, following by the removal of one of the bishops, which means that also maybe in the time they knew the value of a bishop pair. Okay, how does black continue after a3? He continue with this move, king h8. Why king h8? Probably because he's taking it off from diagonal that can be used by the light square bishop. h3, knight h6, queen e2, f2. Now this is not really pin anymore because there is the queen behind, and remember, black doesn't have the dark square bishop. Knight h6, f7, king g1, g2, and now g5. So in reality the move king h8 was made to probably start an attack on the g file. But this is the thing, and Chernev says it. Strange as it may seem, this move renders black king vulnerable to attack on the long diagonal by the bishop hidden away at b2. This is totally true, and if you play the Dutch, you will discover that when there is a bishop on b2 and you are forced to play this move because there is a queen on b3 or a bishop here, it's terrible because you are still stuck in a place where you don't want to be stuck. Okay, now how does white continues here? Try to guess. When I tell you how does white continue or how does black continue, please pause the video and think a couple of seconds. Over time, that thinking will give you a lot of improvement. Why? Because you will start to become more active and understand the problem of a certain position. G4 is the move. Okay? And now black plays knight c6, e7, queen e3, rook f8, g8, rook a1, e1, knight e7, g6, g takes f5, knight g6, f4, check. Very good, very interesting move, huh? Very interesting move. King g2, h2, knight f4 takes d3, queen e3 takes d3, and now there is e takes f5. But as you can see, here it comes through the prediction that this king would be in trouble. Because try to pause the video and think what is the next move played by white. Why do you need to think? Because this is very important. And if you pause the video and now you start it again because you want to check if you got the right move, let me tell you something. Obviously this is the blocker, right? You want to be able to move these two because these two, if they go forward, they are going to become a menace that it will be terrible, right? So what does white play? He plays c4. Once these two move forward, this one become the problem for this, okay? So the move c4 was what was needed. And here it says black's queen pawn must be destroyed. Once it's gone, white pieces can release their pent-up power. In fact, you can feel that the white pieces have energy in this moment that is starting to walk, is starting to move. Queen e6, trying to block this movement. c4 takes d5, queen takes d5, but what do you play now as white? Again, you must understand, because some people are very attached to their pawns, they are attached to a little thing, when they don't understand that the goal of the game is to give checkmate. All the rest doesn't matter. You could sacrifice all your 8 pawns. If it leads you to checkmate, that's all you needed to have and to be, right? So, what does he play? e6. Why? Because at this point, it's clear. If you also take, I take back. And if you take, I move my pawn and it's over, right? And here it says, begins a grand combination to checkmate. No, checkmate appear in the notes. The point of the combination, which include a queen sacrifice, is to clear away some pieces and leave white with a superior endgame. Okay, maybe I'm wrong, let's see what's going on. I'm really curious. Oh, what a beautiful game. Bishop b5, beautiful, very, very good move, yeah. Black avoids the capture by, obviously, because, again, that's what I just told you. If it takes, you take immediately, and then once it takes, the game is over, okay? With a discovery check. So this is the move that black fought to neutralize this attack. But again, pause the video and tell me what are you going to play as white. As you can see, This is a book about endgames, but in reality it's teaching us a lot about Capablanca games as well. So if you pause the video enough and you found your move, it's quite clear, right? Again, it's all based on this discovery check that you want to have, because it will give you the win. It's clear that it's giving you a win. Boom! So queen d3 goes to take on b5, a beautiful move. So we really discover a gem. Queen d5 takes b5. Obviously d5 check, but notice these two are really a problem, because generally when two pass pawn reach the 6th rank, they are the value of a rook, at least, because you need to sacrifice a rook to try to stop them. So let's see how the game continues. Rook g8, g7. Oops! Wow! And notice that here, if we can connect something, let's see what happens. h6, obviously you want to escape. Knight f3, d4, and now there is really something beautiful here that I would like to show you. Black is gonna take there, but what happens if he goes here? So let's try to analyze this for a moment. Please analyze what would you do if this was the move by black. If black plays this move, what will you do? Notice we are at move 32. By move 40, 8 moves later, there is a checkmate. Okay, so say if black plays queen b5, d7, so that the queen stays on the diagonal leading to e8, the win would be achieved according to Capablanca by, so this is analysis by Capablanca. Knight d4 takes f5, queen d7 takes f7, bishop b2 take g7 check, king h7, rook e7, queen f7 takes d5, and now there is check, obviously discovery check, king g6, check, king h5, check. And now there is really something beautiful, king h4, and I think you should guess by this point which is the move that gives checkmate, because check takes, boom, and this is game over. What a beautiful checkmate that we have just witnessed, and imagine that Capablanca, however, analyzed this. So in the time, obviously we are speaking the 1900, they didn't have an engine, so it's really a great work, right? And I hope you enjoyed it. By the way, the funny thing is this, I'm using some Soviet pieces. Did you know that Lasker and also Capablanca, they were living in Moscow? Because in Russia the chess culture was so big, like soccer for Italy or some South American countries, and so they were recognized in the streets. So they were like national heroes, let's say, also if they were not born in Russia. But the Russians really love the chess, and so they knew their champions. And that's kind of interesting in my opinion. Okay, I think I return back to the position where we saw what happens if black plays queen d7. By the way, I'm sorry, but this is very funny. At this point we are at 24 minutes in the video. This game was played by Capablanca in 42 minutes. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous, right? How slow we are. So queen takes f1. So also Corzo understood that things were going bad if he would have tried to keep the queen. Rook e1 takes f1, rook g7 takes f7, and now of course there is rook takes f5, rook takes f5, knight takes f5 check because it's there, and this is a won endgame for white. But obviously they still have to play king h7, and now there is a comment, and it says Capablanca conducts the ending with a refined technique of a mature master. He has a slight material advantage with two minor pieces against a rook, while the pass pawn is a positional advantage. As it advances must be prevented at all costs. Capablanca plans to keep black's king from approaching the pawn, while his own king will move toward the center to assist its advance. So here we outline the strategy of this endgame. So when you are in the endgame, you need to pause, not the video, but pause yourself from moving, understand that's an endgame, understand what you have to do. Here, the active role of this king to help and protect, to help push this pawn is fundamental. The other idea is to keep this king out of the way because it should be the perfect blocker to that pawn, right? And so the fight is all there here. The fight is all there. So let's see what happens, okay? So if you were white, what would you play now? Capablanca played knight e7, cuts the king off from the center, the knight and the bishop control all the exits. So control and control. As you can see, they control all the squares, so it cannot go near that pawn. That's a fact. Rook a8, f8. And this, obviously, there is a threat. What is the threat? The first thing you need to ask yourself is what is attacking? Well, is want to go there because this dies, right? So, but if he played the rook here, the other would have just played d6, right? So you cannot really win. Let's see what happens now. Okay, king g2, okay, taking control of f2, h5, and now d6. Again, the pass pawn must be what? Push. You need to push the pass pawn. That's all you need to do. g4, h take g4, and h take g4, and now there is bishop b2, e5. Obviously you don't want to attack that pawn because it doesn't really matter. What matters if you want to win this endgame is to push this pawn so that he needs to give up this, and at that point with two minor pieces there shouldn't be any problem in winning, right? Okay, knight h6, d7. Here the threat is bishop c7 and then d8. Rook f8, d8, and now you are white. What do you play as white? Try to find it out. Okay? What do you play as white? Boom! Knight g8, check. And what do you do now? Wow. This is an incredible move. Rook takes g8, bishop c7, king g6, d8, queen. Obviously, rook takes d8, bishop takes d8. And now you must be careful because at this point, this is again an endgame, you don't want to exchange the pawns. You want to keep the pawns because the pawns will win the game, right? So black plays b5, and white plays king f2. It seems that maybe there was king g3 and it was quicker the way to win, but let's see. King f5, knight e3, sorry, king e3, king e5, king d3, and notice that if you do this move you're going to lose it, huh? So just to be sure that you understand. King d5, king c3, g3, and now bishop here, h4, g2, and bishop here. So at this point we see the role of the pieces change. Now the king wants to help these pawns to go through. This king cannot really do that, cannot go to help this pawn to become a queen, because if he does that, this king will kill them and win. So what do you do as black? Huh? Black played a5. And now b4. And knight, so king d5, e4. Very interesting situation. Obviously you must be careful because this bishop controls this diagonal, so you cannot really continue to defend this, so you cannot really exchange it. But for example, and here he could have used a diagram honestly, because there is a very long analysis on a4. Okay, so let's see what does it say on a4. So this is the problem with the endgame, right? We are at move 52, and a4 you need to calculate if it wins or not, okay? Because you need to know, otherwise how do you justify this instead of that, right? And you would think this is the right move. Why? Because it keeps both the pawns on light squares, and the bishop is on dark square, so it cannot attack. But let's see what happens. King d3, king e5, bishop g1. This is to put the enemy in Zugzwang, so he needs to move. King d5, bishop d4, king e6, king e4, king d6, check. And this. Now what does he do? He plays this and king d5, and the game is over, because the king is able to win those pawns. Very, very interesting, I would say. Very beautiful. And as you can see, we can really learn the endgame also from these practical games, especially from Capablanca, that was famous for that. Okay, let's go back to the real game and see how it ended. Okay, so we are in this position. We saw that a4 doesn't work and black played king e4. Now you must be very, very careful, because you must understand that if you play this, and he played that, I think, right? No, he didn't play that, because the problem of this move is that white doesn't control the queening square, and this bishop unfortunately cannot help. So what happens is that generally black will give everything away and just go here, and then you cannot move him anymore, because there will be a stalemate, or he cannot move, and will continue to move between these two, and you cannot promote. So you must be very careful. That's the reason why b takes a5 didn't work, okay? Because it would go back and would go here, and you cannot take it away. While if he had the light square bishop, then yes, it's a win. But be careful, because in some cases you have all this advantage, but the wrong bishop, and you're not going to win. That's a fact. Okay, so let's see what he plays. He plays bishop b6. And obviously he return back. Why return back? Because if you take, it becomes a queen, so you cannot really take, right? King d3, king c6, and now bishop g1, king d5, bishop h2, king c6, king d4, a4. Now that black understood that he wouldn't take that pawn, he moves it, okay? But unfortunately it's a little late, I think. King e5, king b6, king d5, and king a6. Now again, what is black hope? Black probably hope that there is this situation, and this is a draw, because it's a stalemate, okay? So obviously you need to be a little careful in what you do, okay? And here it says Corzo's last hope is that Capablanca will make the natural move king c6, like I just said, okay? So why king c6 is wrong? Because he immediately promote. You take, and we are in the position that I just told you, right? But obviously he is not stupid, and he played king c5, and at that point black has to resign. Why? Because now if he also does that, you take, and at a certain point he has to move the king, and it's over, right? Let's see, for example, if he does that, you just take, right? So he doesn't want to do that. He does this and says queen, and you take, and then he has to move. Oops. And now the game is over, because with 2 pawns you are able to win. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this beautiful game. Personally, I enjoyed it a lot, but the funny thing is that we are 5 minutes away from what Capablanca used for thinking for the entire game. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much.